feeling that beneath that little halo on your noble head, there lies a thought or two the devil might be interested to know. You're like the finish of a novel that I finally have to take to bed. You fascinate me so. I feel like Christopher Columbus when I'm near enough to contemplate the sweet geography descending from your eyebrow to your toes. The possibilities are more than I could possibly enumerate. That's why you fascinate me so. So sermonize and preach to me. Make your sanctimonious little speech to me. But oh my darling, you forget my inability to concentrate. I think I'm dealing with a powder keg that's just about to blow. Will the end result deflate me, or will you annihilate me? You fascinate me so. Sanctimonious little speech to me. But oh my darling, you forget my inability to concentrate. I think I'm dealing with a powder keg that's just about to blow. Will the end result deflate me, or will you annihilate me? You irritate me, or you aggravate me. You fascinate me so, so.
Hi, Paige. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. It's it's a little hot, but I've got my chilled drink. Cheers.
What are you drinking?
This is a mocktail this evening.
Okay. So what does that mean?
It is. It's pretty, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice color.
It is. It's simple. All it is sparkling water with a little bit more lime sparkling water. So plain and lime sparkling water and grenadine, just to make it look pretty.
Yeah.
So that's it. So it's refreshing.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So we were just talking about that performance was from my very first Snap-on 2 and 4 at the Nashville Jazz Workshop, which is one of the venues that we are obviously encouraging people to support right now. As we, for the rest of 2020, we're supporting our favorite live venues. And obviously the workshop has a special place in our heart, and we continuously support them, and we want to encourage other people to as well. But that was Cy Coleman, You Fascinate Me So. And we recorded that on my album with the trio. And that was Dennis Soley on saxophone. We had, flute, I'm sorry. And then we had Marcus Finney on drums, Roger Spencer, you, me, and a wonderful audience. So that was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to share that with all of you. So anyway, are you super excited about our guest tonight on Happy Hour with Beegie?
Absolutely. I've been telling people for years that this man is my favorite pianist.
This is big time. We're big time tonight.
He's a lot younger than I am, but the first time I ever saw him, I think it was about 20 years now since he and Jeff came to town, the Jeff Hamilton Trio. And they set up some Cole Porter things. And I always can tell when it's Tamir, because he arranges things in a certain way that is just stunning.
Yeah.
And things that you would never think of to do, but just fit the song perfectly.
Yeah. And
I remember he played the Cole Porter tune when they took off for the set, and I was walking around telling my bass player at that time, Charles, and several people, have you heard this guy?
Yeah.
Where has he been?
Yeah.
So, and it's been my treat and everybody else's to have him at the workshop and the times that we've had them play for other things here. And so he still remains one of my favorites, really spectacular musician. So Tamir Hendelman, let's say hi.
All right. Hi, Tamir.
Hi, Monica. Hi, Beegie. How are you both doing?
Oh, we're good. I'm good.
You look very relaxed. Is this happy hour?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Just checking.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
We are very relaxed. So I was looking at Beegie. I was making
monogram
sure you could
glasses.
hear. Yeah, we've got the Beegie Adair beverage glasses. So cheers. So
Beegie, what are you having over there?
I'm having a little Chardonnay.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm having a little herbal tea, little kava tea.
Oh,
is
you're a
that
good boy?
Herbs from your garden?
I wish, but put a little flowers from the garden back there.
So pretty.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's fresh flowers. We talk about this all the time. Of the simple joys in life, I think fresh flowers are among the most marvelous. So,
right. How's the weather been over there?
It's been really summery. We had a big rainstorm over the weekend, which we needed for the flowers and everything. And but it's been very, very summery. And,
that's good. Tennessee in the rain is it's a good thing. Is that a song title? That sounds like it could be a song title, Tennessee in the Rain, right?
I never thought of that, but it could. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Do I know any composers, any songwriters that can maybe work together and write the song?
Well,
let me think about this for a minute.
But I got to tell you, every time that I've been to Nashville, going to that jazz cave, where we spent many nights together, it's it's like a little jazz mecca, isn't it?
Yes,
and I know that they've moved and going through all these changes, but but really, that's a special part of the country, and it's a special place for jazz.
It is.
It really is.
It's very dear to all of us, and I think when this is over, when we can move back into what we were going to do in the interim for building, that it'll be fine. We just have to wait till it's really safe to ask people to come out and congregate and stuff like that.
Yeah, in fact, I was talking with Roger Spencer earlier today, and he was just, he's looking forward to that, and we were talking about you a little bit. So you have a lot of stories to tell.
Oh dear.
Well, I'm going to pop off so you two can chat for a little bit, and I'll be in and out, but my producers are requiring my assistance right now. The cats.
Okay.
They're
the cats, the producers.
They'll probably show up.
They're the producers. So anyway, you all have fun. I'll check back in a few minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, since I've seen you, you must have been doing what? A lot of different new things. Or are you still with the trio?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to the next chance we get to play. We'll find out when that might be. But, there's a new CD coming out of the trio. In fact,
good.
Jeff invited me to write a tune for the CD that became the title tune. It's called Catch Me If You Can.
Oh, I
And
like that
as you
title.
know, we have a wonderful new bass player, John Hamer, who you got to hear.
Oh, yeah,
He's
he's
been in the
terrific.
trio for about a couple of years now. And I think one of the last things we did before the spring started was the jazz cruise, which is always a fun thing to do.
Where do you go on the cruise?
Well, different places, different years. Went to Key West. We went to a couple of the islands. The islands usually rotate. Sometimes it might be, Curacao or Saint Martin or different, Mexican Riviera. But I mean, it's an amazing jazz experience. I mean, everybody's there, and everybody has a chance to relax and enjoy each other and play.
Yeah. Do they use a lot of different bands, or is it one band?
Oh, it's like 150 musicians.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never been on one, so I don't.
You should go. I mean, they've had everybody on there, so different trios, Bill Charlap, Emmett Cohen, Christian McBride.
Wow.
So many pianists, so many wonderful pianists.
Yeah.
There's even a show where they have, it's called Keyboard Capers. So everybody plays one tune. It's a nice experience.
That's great.
Yeah. What about you? What have you been up to?
Oh, let's see. Well, since March, I've been a lady of leisure because we went to New York and played Birdland for 3 nights.
Yeah.
And right at the end of that, the virus was starting to come to New York, and it was really, really fast. Right. So by the time we got home, pretty much we haven't done anything except things like this on the net. I've been doing a lot of practice, but I haven't had my piano tuned because my tuner is also under quarantine. So
I've had a lot of good luck with that because I have this wonderful tuner, and when we first got the piano, they installed these, I guess, dehumidifying rods under the piano, and they keep it nice and dry. And I haven't had to tune the piano in, I don't know, maybe about a year.
That's great.
Yeah.
Mine is in a room with a lot of windows. So I think the sun is what makes it go down some. It never goes very much out of tune. I mean, I still sit down and play it, and it's not crazy, but it would be better if it was kind of, brought around a little bit more.
So when you sit and just practice nowadays, what are you doing? Are you just discovering new tunes? Are you trying new arrangements, or what's fun for you?
Some of everything, yeah. I when I was younger, I used to do all the Hammond and the Czerny and all that stuff, and from time to time I get all those books out and do some actual just plugging through those things where it's just technique and stuff. I have people coming up to me saying, I mean, people say funny things to piano players, I think, sometimes. And I've had people say, why do you need to practice? You already know how to play, you know? And so I always say, it's like tennis or golf. I already know how to do it, but if I don't do the stuff that is actually just movement, then I don't play as well. I'm not playing a tune, I'm playing exercises kind of thing. And they go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
I have a friend, I don't know if you know this pianist, wonderful pianist. His name is Jeremy Siskind.
I know the name.
He did this really interesting experience where he was doing a tour in the Middle East, and then he took a week off. He rented an apartment in Paris.
Ooh.
And this sounds like a dream to me, right? He rented an apartment in Paris that had a piano, and then he just wrote these pieces that are meant to be etudes. So they're pieces used to practice, but they're musical pieces that people would enjoy listening. And it's all about getting into the flow. So you know how certain pieces are like perpetual motion, like the hands are always moving. So he wrote about maybe a dozen of those pieces and then made a video recording of them and a book. And it's some wonderful stuff. I got a copy of it that I'd like to run through it. I think that'd be a fun musical workout. Yeah. Fun quarantine activity.
Right. Well, before we were quarantined, since I've seen you, we did, my trio did an album with a singer named Clifton Davis. Do you know Clifton?
No.
He had a big hit, oh gosh, about in the 70s, I guess, because I remember I did it on a concert when I was teaching at Peabody, and or at Vanderbilt. And it was a big hit. It was called Never Can Say Goodbye. And the Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5 sang it and had a huge hit on it. And but he's also an actor. He's in a series called Madam Secretary. He plays a diplomat in this series. And but he's a wonderful singer and writer. And he spent a lot of time in Brazil, and he speaks fluent Portuguese. And we went to Birdland several years back, and it was right after Christmas, and he came up with his wife and said he wanted to meet us. And she had given him tickets to Birdland for Christmas. So it turns out that they were listening to my records. I was listening to his records.
Yeah.
And so we all became friends, and he came down here, he and his wife, that summer. And we did I love it. I really love this album. It's very Brazilian based, mostly. And he did some in Portuguese and some, not. But Laurie Meacham, Roger's wife, and I had a tune that he wanted to record. So we got a nice take on that. And he added a lot of strings and things like that, and it's very lush. It's called Mina Alma, My Heart. And he sings it in Portuguese, and he played us the final product after he got all the stuff into it, and it's just luscious. I can't wait for it to get out.
That's great. I love Brazilian music. So
yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
So that's about the newest thing, I guess, I have out there.
That's great. Hey, Monica, how are the producers?
The producers, they're fine.
She's gone off the
They're
grid
fine.
here.
They're begging for
in
their.
some other part of the house right now. Usually my little one comes up and sits with me, sometimes on the keyboard.
Good.
I have two.
It's like having children around.
Grover is the grandfather cat. He sits like this all the time, like a sphinx, And the little one is.
We have a big one. Active. We have a big cat.
Yeah, Grover's pretty big. He's about 18 pounds.
Well,
I can't pick him up very easily.
What about your cat? Tell us about your cat.
Yeah,
Princey is sleeping right now. He's very comfortable on the sofa over there, and
yeah,
he's just kind of in a don't bother me kind of mood. So
Mhm.
we'll leave him alone for now. But he likes to get out sometimes.
Oh,
But
do you let
it's
him out? Or
okay. It's
okay.
fine. We trust him. You know, I mean, unless if it's nighttime, he needs to stay inside because there's coyotes and
Yeah.
things. But
There's Monica.
he's mellow. He has a GPS, I think, because you know my wife will say, "Where did he
Funny,
go?"
like,
And I
yeah.
say, "It's okay. He'll be back. He knows where home is."
Mhm. That's true.
Now, I was thinking earlier that you are, I think, the first guest that we've had on Happy Hour who has children at home. What is it like to go through a quarantine with your children at home? I mean that in a when school was going on with the structure and just trying to. That's a whole different ball game,
I hear
children.
a lot of things about parents going crazy because it's too much, but I love it.
Yeah.
Getting to spend more time with my girls than ever before. I've been teaching from home. I mean, I've done it before even, but UCLA where I teach, we've been teaching from home. My wife teaches from home. She teaches music from home now. So the girls are studying from home. So, it's great. It's great. And we get to hang out. We get to, a couple of weeks ago, we went to our first actual lunch out.
Aww.
We drove like 90 miles to this beautiful little village, and we sat outside, and there was like a little lavender bush, and it was very just 2-hour lunch, just relaxing.
Oh, that's
and then
lovely.
we walked through this little butterfly grove, and it was we went to the beach. So on a weekday, so all that's great. All that I wouldn't trade
Those are
it. I mean, that's wonderful.
beautiful memories.
Yeah. I told them also, we have a very strict policy, no more than 8 hours of social media time per day.
8 hours.
I'm just kidding, but now we're all on our devices. So.
Yeah. I and every state is different and where they are and how they're handling things. And, we're in the kind of the extreme situation of not being around anyone, and I keep having dreams about being out and not having my mask, those kinds of things. But I find that even though I'm stir crazy and I like to get out and hug my friends and all of that, I find this time to be kind of vital. I think it was given to us as a gift in some ways, and I don't wish anyone harm or to lose their job or anything like that. But if you have the luxury of taking this time to spend it with family or, catch up on some things that you kept putting off, I think it's a really cool thing. So
yeah,
it's nice. And if you could go to the beach doing it, that's even better.
Oh yeah.
Wish we had a beach around here, beachy. We're landlocked.
Get to work on
Anyway,
that. Figure out.
Our beach is about 600 miles away, right?
Yeah.
Down
But
in
people
the
are
Gulf
behaving.
Shores.
I mean, there's a lot of space when you go out. Everybody's basically wearing masks.
Good.
And then if you're sitting outside and you're away from everybody else and you have dinner, then you take off the mask and you enjoy a little dinner.
Yeah.
People go to
That's
the
nice.
beach. Everybody's in their own little pocket. So it's nice.
Yeah. And you could take a little picnic or
Yep.
yeah, you could really create a really wonderful experience. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we have been able to do, which is fun, is watch live streams of some of our favorite musicians. And we loved watching your home concert the other night.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
As the music of Cole Porter. And I'm gonna bounce off again, but I'd love for you guys just to talk about your home concerts a little bit and make sure everybody knows, how they can watch you and all that. But share with you if you don't mind about that.
Yeah, of course. Well, and the first couple of weeks after this started, I mean, we were all kind of in shock, just wondering, okay, what kind of world are we living in now, and what are we going to do, and all that. But I saw a couple of streams of friends that inspired me. I saw, wonderful pianist Emmett Cohen and Cecile McLaurin-Salvant, and I thought, I've always loved doing home concerts, and there's a big scene for that in LA. There's a lady named Betty Hoover who had 19 years opened her house. It was called the A-Frame, and it overlooked the Hollywood Hills. And every Sunday, or maybe once every few Sundays, there would be maybe Jeff Hamilton's trio or Houston Person or different folks would come and do an afternoon. And after that, I was doing these monthly concerts at a home not too far away from here with a beautiful piano. And hopefully that'll come back soon. But I mean, really performing from home is kind of special and kind of different. You're opening your home, you're sharing music with people. A lot of people that have been coming to those concerts, which are every Saturday night, are people from LA who've seen me here, but also from all around the US, from Knoxville, from Nashville, New York. And that's been really nice. I kind of got into a groove about doing them as a theme, because it's a way for me to learn, revisit tunes and read a little bit about the history. I read all about Cole Porter's life story and thinking about different interesting ways to connect different songs. It kind of gives me a lot of appreciation for people that do those sort of things as vocalists, doing a one-person show. But as a pianist, it's different, because they're not hearing the lyrics. They might know some of the lyrics, but if it's an instrumental tribute, that's different too. Yeah, but it's definitely a fun and kind of special experience.
Sure.
I kid with the audience, because we have them muted, but you can see them smile and applaud. And I say, you can applaud, you can even sing along, because we've got you muted, so it's perfectly safe.
That's good.
But it's fun. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that you tuned in, BG.
That was a great concert.
Thanks.
The other thing that I do is I read a lot. I always have read a lot, but and I'm trying to write a book. I was about to be a journalism major in college, and my grandmother talked me into majoring in music. She said, "You already know how to play the piano. Go major in music." And she made a deal with me. She said, "If you don't like it after a year, I'll send you wherever you want to go to study journalism." And by the time I got into college, and I met all the other musicians and some guys that had come back from Korean War, had been in bands and stuff. So half of my freshman class was 10 years older than I was. And they took me in like a little sister and taught me how to play the blues and all that stuff, But I've always wanted to write, and I've written things like my album notes and things like that, liner notes. And I've written things for other people, like foreword to a book or something like that. But I've been keeping little diaries of things from the time I came to Nashville, which was 40 years ago. And people come up and say the funniest things to you, and you have funny things happen at a gig, or you have a really bad gig, but it turns out to be fun, And there's so many things that happen to piano players, especially.
Do you have a little story that comes to mind?
Well, I was just thinking of one of my friends' story, which is kind of, I'm guessing everybody has had this happen at some point. But he got a call from a society lady. He's a really good pianist. And she wanted a piano player for her cocktail party. And she told him in no uncertain terms that this was a wonderful piano. Her dear dead mother had left it to her, and it was one of a kind. I mean, she went on and on about this piano. And so he took the gig, and he went. And he went in and sat down at the piano before the people came. And it was terribly out of tune. He said it was just awful.
Right.
And so she came in and said, "Don't you love my mother's piano?" And he said, "Could you tell me how long it's been since you've had it tuned?" And she said, "Do you have to have them tuned?"
That's great.
So I said, "What did you do?" And he said, "I just put cotton in my ears and played all night." And
the minutes turn to hours in those kind of situations,
so,
right?
Yeah. And so anyway, I've kept a little diary of those things.
That's
And,
great.
I'm
I remember
gonna-
a little
I'm gonna try
funny
to write a
story
book.
myself. Since we're trading stories, so there was this saxophonist from the Midwest that came to LA, and I was subbing for someone on a quartet gig. So we're playing all these tunes, and he's calling all these tunes and play them. Then finally he said to me, "Do you know Lullaby of Birdland?" Sure. Okay. What key? F minor. Okay, good. Why don't you go ahead and play it? I'm going to go have a drink. Very specific request,
I've got a short thing about Lullaby of Birdland that I never expected to happen. I was in New York one weekend, and I went shopping at Bloomingdale's. I was looking for something. I don't know what, but all of their perfume and their nice things and everything. When you go in the Third Avenue side, they have like floor walkers in tuxedos, and everything is just so posh and all this stuff. And so I was looking around at the perfume and the other things, and there was this man standing with his hands behind his back, tuxedo, very British looking, just immaculately dressed. And as I walked by him, I heard,
Wow.
and I stopped, and I came back a step, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, were you just whistling Lullaby of Birdland?" And he said, "Yes, madam, I was." And that was the whole conversation.
Wow. That's great.
He
I
was
thought
like
maybe
this.
he whistled because he recognized you and he heard you played that tune, but
No,
no, he
it
just
was
whistled it.
He was very British, and
I just
And-
did a show recently, one of these weekly shows that I'm going to do again in a couple of weeks, and it was specifically British jazz.
Mhm.
And I was just thinking about, the first musical that I ever played music from was Oliver Twist
Uh-huh.
as a child, and then hearing the Manhattan Transfer sing A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all these things,
Yeah.
right? They're just little memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that song. I
That's
play it a
beautiful.
lot in concerts. Yeah.
Well, Beegie, you should tell him your story about White Cliffs of Dover in London.
Yeah.
Well, I knew about what is the woman's name that sang so beautifully?
Vera Lynn.
Vera Lynn.
She just passed away.
Yeah, she was one of those people during the war in London
Mhm.
that sang and kept everybody's morale up and everything. She
Right.
was very famous,
Yes.
and she sang a lot of songs about the war, kind of thing.
Hmm.
And so one of the songs she sang was White Cliffs of Dover.
Right.
There'll be bluebirds over the White Cliffs of Dover tomorrow. Just you wait and see.
Yeah.
And I love the melody. So the first time I went to London to play, we always do take the A train for like that's the last one.
Right. Sure.
And then I usually play my particular song, "We'll Be Together Again."
Yeah.
Great
song.
That's we always play it right at the end and kind of calm everybody down.
It's a good one.
And but I had an older audience, and there were a lot of senior citizens in the audience, and they're very responsive to music. Londoners love music.
Yes.
And well, English people do.
Yep.
And I've had really good audiences. They just love everything. They love Broadway. They love everything.
Hmm.
And so after I played the last encore, they were still clapping. Wanted to hear something else. And just on a whim, I sat down and played one chorus of White Cliffs of Dover.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody started crying because in the war, that's what they sang to say, tomorrow just you wait and see.
Yeah.
and it was happy tears, but it was very poignant. And
I love those moments. Yeah, that's
yeah,
special.
they were such a good audience, and they didn't want to let us quit. So it was a nice experience.
Now, I have a question for you. So, you know the musical My Fair Lady, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Now, that's based on Pygmalion by George Bernard Shaw.
right.
But it's an American musical, but it's kind of set in Britain, and
Hmm.
they love that, right? I mean, that particular show, did they feel a kind of a closeness to that because of the,
I don't know, but I think they would.
yeah,
Um, we didn't play anything from that. Oh, my producer's trying to look out the window here.
okay,
My little cat.
yeah,
Um, I don't know, but I think they would, because
yeah,
they seem to. The audiences that we had in that club seemed to love everything from Broadway on to American music
yeah,
to whatever. They liked everything.
yeah. I
So
mean,
I'm
for
guessing
me,
they do.
yeah, I mean, for me, like I remember hearing some musicals when I was growing up in Israel. Um, every Friday night there would be like an American TV musical.
Mhm.
So, Singing in the Rain or
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
those sort of
Oh,
things. We would gather at my grandmother's apartment, which was just a couple of floors below where we lived, and the whole family would have a little dinner, and then we'd
No.
hear
oh,
some
that's
standard
nice.
that way.
Do you ever go? Are you able to go back to Tel Aviv? Take your family?
Yeah, I mean, I was there last, I think, in September, and um, as soon as maybe I would say I was literally about to go there with Sean Jones, wonderful trumpet player.
Yeah.
We were going to do a Miles Davis tribute with a quintet about 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
So maybe that'll happen next year because I
yeah.
was going to bring the whole family there.
Oh, wonderful.
My oldest girl, my oldest daughter, was there when she was about 3 months
Oh,
old.
okay.
So that was a little different because
Yeah.
she still, but
Yeah.
now they're 10 and 12. I think it would be a great time, maybe in about
Oh,
a
yeah.
year,
Oh yeah,
to bring
that'd
them
be
there.
good.
The curiosity is their ability to understand and appreciate the history and
Yeah,
your history there.
Yeah.
right.
That's special. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, you were speaking about My Fair Lady a few minutes ago, and you were kind enough to send us a video of you from a solo performance. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? I'd love to share that with the audience.
Sure. All right. So one of the songs that I recorded on my latest album, Destinations, is On the Street Where You Live from My Fair Lady. And recently I did a little streaming show where I played a couple of songs, including that one. So I thought, in case you'd like to share it, that could be a fun one for us to sit and relax and hear some music, and then we can talk some more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, here it is, Tamir Hendelman, On the Street Where You Live. Oh, Tamir, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
I know, for those of you out there who are just getting to know Tamir, we'll make sure that all of his information is in the description so you can connect with him. He's on social media. He obviously has a website. He's got a couple of wonderful albums that he has released, and then he's on dozens and dozens of other recordings with so many cool people. I mean, my goodness gracious, besides Jeff Hamilton Trio and the Clayton-Hamilton Orchestra, you've recorded with everyone. I mean, everyone from Tierney Sutton to Barbra Streisand, which is, do you remember? You would not remember this, I bet. You did the Oprah show with Streisand, and I was there, and I was sitting right by the piano, and we talked for a second, but you were in a work zone. But I have been a Streisand fan since I was a little girl, and I cried through that whole thing. My sister won tickets for us for that. And for some reason, not only we get tickets, but we were right by the piano. And my sister was shocked of how many crazed Streisand fans there are in the world like me. But when you walked up, I'm like, "Hi, Tamir," and you're like, "Monica, hi." She's like, "Oh my God, like what is happening right now?" So anyway, that was fun. But I mean, Natalie Cole, you've worked with so many marvelous people. Is there somebody that stands out to you that you just love?
One special memory I had, and I think I remember flying maybe straight from Nashville on one of those visits to Europe to experience, was Paul McCartney was going to make an album.
That's right. Yeah.
And John Clayton did the arrangements for it. It was called Kisses on the Bottom. I'm going to, So, and I was invited to go to England to rehearse with him, just go through the songs together with the producer, Tommy Lee Puma. And one of the things I really remember was how laid back and down to earth he was. He had his studio kind of in the countryside by a windmill, very pastoral. And there's all the different, the harpsichords from Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart. And you're just sitting around the piano. Okay, let's try this tune. What key do you want to do it in? Yeah, that sounds good. And then we'll do the bridge. And just very laid back, very relaxed, very down to earth.
Isn't that so refreshing when you just, I think that when you, I haven't met many of the people that I admire most, with the exception of you two, of course. But you just hope that the people that you look up to or that you respect are nice when you meet them, and that they're not divas or high maintenance or whatever.
Yeah. So. Another funny memory is Charles Aznavour.
Yeah. Oh.
Wonderful singer.
Yeah.
Recorded with the Clayton-Hamilton Big Band, with Jazz Orchestra. Yeah, and this was kind of a jazz album that he did after years of not doing one, and going back to a lot of his famous songs from the 50s and 60s and giving them a jazz flavor.
Wow.
And he was funny. He jumped up on the stage of this rehearsal hall, and he was like 88 or 90 or something. And John Clayton said, "Nice jump." And he said, "Maybe my last," And then the other thing that he did was he asked the people in the big band, "So how old are you? How old is the oldest person in the band?" So I think one of the trombonists said, "I'm 76. He says, "Just a kid."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is great.
Is that still available, that album?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear it.
We'll look for it.
Yeah.
We will own it soon. Okay, so we have implemented a Q&A section, sort of.
All right.
You get nervous? I'm gonna start asking you lots of
Yeah.
Starting to sweat. Better have some more tea.
Yes, I sweat. Okay. So some of these questions are geared towards an individual, and some are just a general universal question that fans want to know. So I am mixing them up so you can see it. Yes, at random. See which question comes first. Okay, Tamir.
Yes.
Your wife is a musician. Do you compose music together?
We haven't composed music together, but she has appeared on the last couple of concerts. And in fact, with the you heard her with the Cole Porter
Yes.
tribute, we did a couple of the Oscar Peterson
She plays
trio
well. She's great.
arrangements. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sherry Lucetti is her name. And she and I met when she moved to LA. She moved to LA. She had a teaching job here, but there was a jam session that she attended, and the saxophonist invited her to our duo to make it a trio. This little duo I've been doing at this club that had vocalists and pianists. And it happened to be saxophone and piano, and then it became saxophone, piano, and bass. And that's how I met her. So
that's a nice story.
Coincidence.
That's nice. And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Well, if you guys ever compose anything, you have fans who want to know about it. So just so you know. Okay, Beegie. This is actually a non-music question. What are your must-read book and movie suggestions?
Oh dear, I've got a long list.
So maybe pick one of each.
Okay, well, my favorite movie is Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor in
A Place in the Sun.
A Place in the Sun. I just spaced out. I love movies, and I've got a list of about 10 that I own, so I can play them anytime I want to. That's the top of the list. What was the other part of the question?
A must-read book.
Well, this is going to sound silly, but I mean, I read a lot of things. I read a lot of famous authors, and I read a lot of old stuff like James Fenimore Cooper and people like that. But my very favorite book, and I've read it probably 5 times, is an English book written by somebody named Dodie Smith, and it's called I Capture the Castle. And my mother read the book, and then she gave it to me. I still have her copy. And it charms you right away when you open the book. The main character, is speaking, and she says, I write this while I'm sitting in the kitchen sink. It turns out it's an old castle in the 40s, and they don't have electricity, so she sits in the kitchen sink so the afternoon sun can be on her writing. And it goes from there. It's a family story, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous book. You can read it from the time you're 12 till the time you quit reading.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's nice. Okay, here's a good one. And this is for anyone who wants to answer. What do you wish for young musicians to know? It's kind of broad.
You start, BG. You look like you had something on the tip of your tongue.
I used to teach jazz improv at Vanderbilt, and I had a lot of students that were piano majors and other kinds of majors, and they were all wonderful, and I love them. I still am in touch with several of them. And but young people always think that they're the first one that ever thought of this chord. You know what I mean? And one of my old friends, an arranger, used to say, when young people start playing and they hit a major 7, they think they've struck oil. You know, it's like, oh, this is great. And I always tell them, don't think that somebody hasn't already done this. What you need to do is go back and listen to one of your favorite piano players, and then go back, find out what he or she listened to. Trace it all the way back to a thread, maybe in the 1900s, and then you'll find out where your style is going to come from, because it's going to be all of those things. They've already done it. So
yeah, it's like a jazz family tree, I guess, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
and the kids that had a lot of technique and could do things always wanted to just play real fast all the time. And occasionally I would bring Chris Brown, my drummer, in, and he said his teacher would put his drummers in a room and give them a pair of brushes and say, boom, 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 boom. He said, unless you can do that straight ahead like it's supposed to sound and feel, then you don't want to go further yet. You got to do that first.
Right. Just make it dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's harder than they think, I think. And I know I felt that way too. I thought I could have played for the Queen of England when I was 16. I was like, sure, I could do that. Sure, I could do that. Well, I couldn't. But to me, it sounded like I could. So I just try to get them to really listen to other people, because I learned most of the tunes from records that I play, or from other people.
And
who
hearing
listen
the
to 'em.
original versions too, right?
Right,
On
that's
TV or the
absolutely.
radio. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you're a melodic player, or you want to be a melodic player, you know the words.
Yeah, learn the lyrics.
Yep.
Yeah. Was it Lester Young who stopped playing in the middle of a recording because he forgot the lyrics? That's what I heard.
I hadn't heard
Oh,
that, but it sounds like him, because
Yeah.
he always wanted to play the lyric. Yeah.
Right.
Wow. I'm glad you just said that. What about you? Do you have advice, Tamir?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think you want to really be creative and explore, and at the same time you also want to really learn the tradition. So it's fun to create projects that help people with both.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
maybe you ask the person, well, bring me 3 of your favorite musicians and let's really explore what they're doing, and then at the same time, great, well, who are they influenced by? Kind of like you said, Beegie, right? And who
Exactly,
are those
yeah.
people influenced by? And yeah, you can learn a lot that way.
That's nice. One thing I've learned, this is more from the business side. In this particular day and age, 20 years ago, I don't know if this same thing could have been said, but I always make sure people know their value. I always tell people, know your value. And Beegie has told me something that somebody told her, and I love this. You make music, for one of two reasons. It either pays what you're worth, or you just really want to do it. You love it, or you love the musicians you're working with, and there's value in that. But I was, when you first start out, you do the coffee house gigs, and you get out and you play with as many people, and you take every opportunity that you can get. And that's vital. You can't get better and you can't connect to people unless you do those things. But as you start to accept money, and as you start to make albums and create a business, I think it is important to know your value and don't sell yourself short. And it's, it's something right now in this quarantine where we're dealing with, and why I'm so proud of you for charging a fee for people. I know that sounds really harsh for some people to hear, but this isn't a hobby, and
Right.
and you have to know your value, and so anyway,
Yeah.
that's a big thing for me. Share
Yeah.
it with people.
The other thing I tell students, or I don't have students anymore because I don't teach classrooms, but I do occasionally do a master class after a concert if I'm in a university or something, and just question and answer and some things. And the last time I did one, which was last fall in Mississippi,
Yeah.
one boy put his hand up and he said, what if you get there and it's a bad gig? What do you do? And I said, you play the gig, and if you got to pay the rent, you should play the gig. But you always learn something, even if it's bad. You learn, first of all, not to do that, or not to work with that contractor or something. But the other thing is, you might meet somebody I've had this happen.
Mhm.
You might meet a horn player or a bass player or somebody who is going to use you on something else.
Yeah, and it could
It's
be like
all
a year later and
word of
something
mouth.
totally
Yeah,
unrelated, and you
yeah.
totally forgot about that. But
Mhm.
I think you always try to bring your best to the
Yeah,
experience, not just in terms of how
yeah,
you play, but how you are and
yeah.
being nice to other people, doing a professional,
That's the thing.
Yeah.
making
And
everybody sound the best that they can.
I tell them to leave their ego at the door
Yeah.
when they go to jam sessions, and don't play 15 choruses because the
Mhm.
drummer's going to be mad at you. You know.
Right. Yeah.
But so that everybody when they're young, I think wants to do everything always. You know. And so you got to tone that down some,
Yeah.
and learn to be subtle.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Okay, I have another question here. Name one deceased musician you wished you could have worked with. Mine's
Okay,
Alvin. Oh, go ahead.
I have an interesting answer. I just thought about this, and I don't know why I thought about it, but for some reason I thought about, which doesn't quite make sense, Duke Ellington,
mhm.
because of course I'm not going to be the pianist in Duke Ellington, But the reason I said that is because I just think you could have learned so much by hanging around.
Yeah.
Duke Ellington. His vision and his swing and his way, his imagination, and the way he worked with Billy Strayhorn and
Oh
the
yeah.
camaraderie of his band, and he said music is my mistress, and
Yeah.
he always was writing all the time, and
Well,
yeah,
and the
and then
interview, yeah,
be there, experience that.
the interview with All About Jazz. There's a great interview that's just out, and we'll include the link so everyone can connect and read it. But you talk about Duke Ellington and the experience of working with Jeff Hamilton, and it being a similar situation where Jeff wants you to do you. He wants you to be you, and how Ellington would write based on the people that were around him, and I thought that was a really great story. So,
Yeah, you're right for the strengths of the people that you're playing with, right?
yeah,
The guy's a great brush
Exactly,
player,
yeah.
so you're going to write a brush feature,
yeah.
etc. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is we're not quite ready yet, but your next tune, I think you talked about that with that particular tune, right? And
Yeah, well, so yeah, I mean, I can talk about it and then later we can play it. But
Okay.
this tune that I wrote called Almost Summer, and I wrote it just inspired by some beautiful nature scene that I experienced. And it was kind of a jazz waltz, and we did it as a trio. And something about the way that Jeff and John played, it felt like we were all creating the solo at the same time. It was very kind of open
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
almost like kind of doing a little tightrope,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's like trusting the musicians that you're with, that we can kind of create that atmosphere together with each other.
That
Yeah.
conversation. You're right. It's the musical conversation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's special. I know those are moments that I know are thankful when they happen, and you can really create off of them. So, all right. So Ellington for you. What about you, Beegie? Who is someone that you wished you could have worked with?
Frank Sinatra.
Nah, no.
I love to play for singers. And to me, Placido Domingo was asked one time who he thought the singer of the 20th century was. And he said, Frank Sinatra. Didn't hesitate. And then he went on to explain how he held his vowels and how he pronounced his consonants and all the stuff that goes into that kind of singing. And I agree with him. I think he was a world-class musician. And I always wanted to play for him. I got to play for Joe Williams one
Really?
day.
How was that
Yeah.
like? That sounds incredible.
Well, it was great. I was on a committee for something. I can't remember. One of the jazz, we had some little jazz clubs around here back in the 80s, I guess it was. And so they were going to have Joe Williams and his trio for a big event, a big outdoor gala at Cheekwood, which is a big garden
Mm-hmm.
and a mansion with
Right.
art and all that stuff. It's a really
Botanical garden.
yeah,
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
big place. And they have a beautiful little kind of amphitheater with a hill and then the stage at the bottom kind of thing. So they were going to have Joe Williams on Saturday as a fundraiser for the garden. And he came in on Friday without his band. And he was going to go do some talk shows and local TV and things like that.
Yeah.
And they called me and they said, Joe wants a piano player to follow him around in case he wants to sing.
Hmm.
So they sent us a limousine, and I got to ride around all day with Joe Williams, eat lunch with him and all that. And occasionally they'd ask, and he'd sing a blues or something.
Oh,
So
great.
got to play with him. We spent the whole day together. It was great.
It's a gift. It's great.
Then I went and sat in the audience the next day with the,
Mm.
I've forgotten what his piano player's name was because I used to see him at Bradley's in New York. Anyway, he did a wonderful show, had a great drummer.
Yeah.
And he was very cordial. He was easy to work with. He'd just say, give me an F.
Mhm.
And off he'd go, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, mine is Alvin Stoller. I
Oh, yeah.
I have a musical crush on Alvin Stoller. I first heard him play a recording with Keely Smith on the sunny side of the street, and I couldn't get past the drummer. And Roger Spencer not only pretty much knows, but if he didn't, he's got a marvelous database that he can pull up. But I called him. I'm like, do you know who the drummer is on Keely Smith's? It was with Billy May, I believe. And
Yeah,
he said,
it was.
it's probably Alvy. And he's worked with him before. And I love hearing stories about Alvin Stoller. But he's the one drummer that I always know whenever that he's on a recording. There's something about his kit. And I'm constantly asking Chris Brown, what is it? What am I hearing? And he tries to explain to me, but I don't know. But anyway, I just love Alvin Stoller. He would think I was crazy if we ever met, but someday. Not anytime soon, I hope. But that's a good question. So.
Got some good questions from the audience.
Yeah. Well, people are always curious about,
Yeah.
I think sometimes about things that, the record label or we don't necessarily think to share, so it's fun to pull some of those out. But
I want to tell Tamir, I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
well, I'm going to go refresh my beverage, my mocktail.
Right.
So I'll be back.
I
You
wanted
two
to tell-
chat for a little bit.
I wanted to tell Tamir about Brower's hat.
Tell me.
We did an album, I think it's 3 years ago now. It's completely different from anything we ever did. I wanted to do it because of my family.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother could play a little bit, and my mother could play piano a little bit, just little songs. They both sang. Everybody was musical. My dad played guitar, and he was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
He had good ears. He just never studied, didn't
Right.
know what he was doing.
Yeah, right.
But he loved Western swing music and things like that. And my mother loved big bands, and so I got all this stuff going in my head when I was little. When I was 9, my dad came home with a recording machine, and it was a radio with radio up here, and then doors down here, and you pulled out a turntable, and you could play records,
Right.
78s. But they had another stylus that would cut a disc, and it had an extra microphone and all that sort of thing. And he loved things like that because he was a mechanic and an electrician.
Right.
And we always had the newest thing that if it plugged in and did something, he had to have it,
Yeah.
And it's from 1947,
Wow.
this thing.
Vintage.
And it used thin metal discs with wax on it, and
Right.
cut a one-time record,
Wow.
And so he and I would cut records all the time. It was just really fun. And I came upon some of them. Most of them got destroyed in a bad storm that hit the house. But I found a few of them, and one of them was able to be restored in terms of sound. And it was me singing an Eddie Arnold song when I was 9.
Oh.
And my dad playing. This little piping voice here. I got this idea to take the songs that he and I had played together and find singers that would sing those songs. And so we cut a whole album with a different singer on each track.
Right.
And all the songs are blues, and some of them are country, a couple of them are instrumental. I've been here so long, I know a lot of the musicians. Yeah. And so when I asked people to play on my record, they said, sure. So I got a wonderful blues singer, Delbert McClinton, Vince Gill, some of the Opry people, and then in 1940.
They all played with you on your record?
Yeah.
Oh.
They played, a lot of the instrumentalists played. We had a steel player who played on Eddie Arnold stuff, and he has a 1937 lap steel. It doesn't have the pedals, it just has the lap. So he came in and overdubbed things. So we went to RCA. The guy that rented it collected pianos and old instruments, and so he had 6 Steinways. And went through them with the secretary, and I said, I don't want to know age or anything about them. Let me just play them. You know, right. Tony Bennett had been there with Lee Musiker, and she told me which one he had played, and it was a little bit stronger sound than I wanted. So I moved to the next one, next to the last one.
Right.
And it was just wonderful. It was just perfect.
The personality you want.
It was 1878. So we did the whole record with an 1878 Steinway.
That's real vintage.
The engineer was very creative, and I wanted to sound pretty much like 1947. He put the drummer, bass player, and me in a little area like you were in your living room. And then the horn players were about 10 feet away from us, but we didn't wear earphones. We did it without earphones.
Yeah.
Like you were just playing in somebody's room. And the sound is wonderful. You can hear everything, but it's not like it's been worked on or anything. Well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really special.
Yeah. I wrote some liner notes to explain what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
And we got some good feedback from it. So we're going to do a second version, because by the time I got all those songs in my head, then we started having stuff in the 50s that came out that my dad and I would play. So I've got enough material for another album.
I can't wait to hear it.
So I'll send it to you. It's called the Grover's Hat Project.
Great.
It's a fun project for sure.
And I wore my grandfather's hat while we were playing it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much
so
for
what are
doing
you
this.
going to do next?
What am I going to do next? Gosh.
Are you thinking about doing another album?
I would love to do another album. See how things open up, and I think that would be great. Start thinking about ideas, start exploring ideas at the piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
What's the first thing you want to do when the world opens up again?
There you are.
Look, I have my family. We travel a little bit. I know that concerts will happen again. So a lot of the concerts, there were actually quite a few things that I was going to do that will just get rescheduled. So one of them actually was not too far from you, the Memphis Symphony Orchestra.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rhapsody in Blue.
Oh, boy.
That'll happen at some point. That'll be really nice too.
Well, please tell us when that happens. We'll come down and see
it.
it.
Now, but it'll happen. All these things. Yeah. I'm kind of not in a rush, because things will take a while to open up. So why be in a rush? You can work. You actually have time to work, explore different things.
And you can't control this. And
right.
So focus on the things you can control, like practicing and creating and whatever it is you like to do that you can actually have some control over right now. But yes, when you're in Memphis, you let us know. We'll be there.
Oh yeah, it's not that far. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Tamir. And this next song that you're going to share it's so beautiful, and I'm so excited. Thank you. I'm honored that you would share it with us. So thank you for doing that. And would you like to? You set it up a few minutes ago, but do you want to set it up a little bit more?
I was recording on a drummer's album. His name is Jay Lawrence from Utah, and I came up. I flew there, and I did this recording. And during a break, the first night, it was around sunset, and I looked out, and it was kind of near the woods, so you could see this little forest and sunset. And I just got this little image, like it's that moment before summer arrives, which is kind of where we are right now.
Yeah.
I came up with this tune, recorded it the next day, and then I don't know, a year later or something, recorded it on my first album, Playground, with Jeff and John. So
Wow.
Well, it's lovely.
I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's called Almost Summer. Tamir, thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, you're so wonderful to do this, and
Yeah.
I'm your biggest fan.
thank you
Honestly.
so much. I love you playing. Love you both.
And thank you. And in the description, there will be all kinds of links and ways to connect with Tamir on social media through his website. And we just want to make sure that you know what he's doing. So when he's playing near you all, you can support him. And the other thing we're doing through, I mentioned this at the beginning, throughout the rest of 2020, we are donating a portion of all of our sales from BeegieAdair.com and MonicaRamey.com to support some of our favorite live music venues around the country, and actually beyond internationally. They all need us right now. And as they say, they were the first ones to close and they'll be the last to open. And some of them are not-for-profits and some of them are for-profit, but they're small independent venues, and they're struggling to not only pay the rent or keep certain staff on salary so that, when they do open, they've got the help and the support, the world-class support that they were accustomed to. So there's an organization, NIVA, the National Independent Venue Association. We encourage you to sign their petition to have ask legislation to support those venues. And in addition, if you can support them through buying merchandise from their store or pre-purchasing tickets, whatever, we want these doors to stay open. So when we all, the three of us and beyond, can get out and play music again, we want those venues to be there. So please make sure you support them if you can. And again, thank you, Tamir. We're so pleased to have you here. And hopefully we can have you back before you get out on the road.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you all. Have a good night. Everyone stay home or wear your mask.
Yes. Be safe.